Hello, good afternoon everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Israeli government spokesman Eylon Levy. This is day 88 of the October 7th war. We begin today with our latest figures. IDF fatalities since the start of the October 7 massacre have risen to 507. That's up by 5 since our update on Friday. The people of Israel mourn the deaths of Captain Harel Itach, Sergeant Major Reserves Eliraz Gabay, Master Sergeant Reserves Konstantin Sushko, Sergeant First Class Reserves Amichai Israel Yoshua Oster, and Sergeant First Class Reserves Liav Seada. We salute them for their heroism and embrace their families. Since October 7, more than 13,000 rockets have been fired towards Israel, including a massive missile barrage toward Tel Aviv on New Year's Eve at midnight. While countries around the world had fireworks, we had Iron Dome interceptions as Hamas made sure to bring in 2024 with a bang. An update on the hostage crisis. Time is running out for the 133 hostages trapped in the Hamas terror dungeons. That's 129 from October 7 and 4 from before. Time has already run out for the more than 24 murdered hostages, with Hamas holding their bodies for ransom. We are fighting to bring all of them back home, and we repeat our demand for the international community to apply concrete pressure on Hamas and its supporters to secure their immediate and unconditional release. Until then, the Red Cross must have access, and foreign governments must apply adequate pressure to secure that access. There is no time. Some operational updates now. The IDF continues its targeted strikes against terror operatives and infrastructure in Gaza and exposing evidence of Hamas's unlawful abuse of civilian infrastructure. Just this morning, IDF troops uncovered multiple rocket launchers adjacent to an UNRWA school in Gaza's Bureij area. In recent days, we've exposed a weapons cache in a kindergarten in Gaza City. We've revealed in interrogation that Hamas stopped Gazans trying to evacuate to Rafah and sent them to the Shifa terror complex instead. We've obtained Hamas video footage of terrorists fighting out of civilian buildings and in civilian dress, and so on and so on. We are demanding unequivocal international condemnations of the Hamas human shield strategy. Anyone complicit with that strategy through their silence only encourages terrorists to double down on that inhumane strategy. Now an update on South Africa. On October 7th, Hamas perpetrated an act of genocide on Israeli soil. Its death squads executed a campaign of systematic extermination with a clear mission to murder as many Israelis as possible, as sadistically as possible. It was an act of genocide perpetrated with Nazi-like cruelty and Nazi-like efficiency in the service of a Nazi-like ideology. The only reason Hamas didn't succeed in committing further genocide is because our security forces stopped it. Hamas openly makes clear its genocidal intent. On October 24th, Hamas official Ghazi Hamad told Lebanese television, "We must teach Israel a lesson, and we will do this again and again." The Al-Aqsa flood is just the first time, and there will be a second and a third and a fourth. He goes on, "Nobody should blame us for the things we do. On October 7, October 10, October 1 million, everything we do is justified." Hamas is hell-bent on a genocide of the Jews, and it is hell-bent on sacrificing its own civilians for that cause. We are fighting to remove the threat of annihilation, bring back the hostages trapped in the terror dungeons, and thwart Hamas's systematic abuse of its own civilian population. The State of Israel emphatically condemns South Africa's decision to play advocate for the devil and to make itself criminally complicit with the perpetrators of the October 7 massacre. On October 7, South Africa openly aligned itself with the Hamas rapist regime when it blamed Israel for Hamas's violation of the ceasefire and covered up Hamas's crimes against humanity. It is now aiding and abetting that machinery of genocide. Collaborating with the perpetrators of genocide is, alas, not new to South Africa, which backed Omar al-Bashir after he was indicted for genocide in Darfur. While the Hamas rapist regime does everything to maximize civilian casualties with its despicable human shield strategy, Israel is employing measures unprecedented in the history of warfare to minimize civilian casualties. We have been clear in word and in deed that we are targeting the October 7 monsters and are innovating ways to uphold international law, including the principles of proportionality, precaution, and distinction, in the context of a counter-terror battlefield no army has faced before. That is why we spent weeks urging residents of northern Gaza to evacuate before the ground offensive. To warn civilians, we placed over 70,000 phone calls, sent 13 million text messages, left 14 million voice messages, and dropped nearly 7 million leaflets, urging civilians to evacuate temporarily for their safety, informing them about humanitarian pauses and precise evacuation routes. That is why we secured humanitarian corridors for civilians to escape Hamas. That is why we set up a helpline for Palestinian civilians to tell our army if Hamas was stopping them fleeing. And that is why we designated a humanitarian zone in one of the only places in Gaza where Hamas was not already hiding behind civilians. The Hamas rapist regime bears full moral responsibility for all casualties in this war that it launched on October 7 and is waging from inside and underneath hospitals, schools, mosques, homes, and UN facilities. In giving political and legal cover to the October 7 massacre and the Hamas human shield strategy, South Africa has made itself criminally complicit with Hamas's campaign of genocide against our people. It shares culpability for the tragic loss of human life. The State of Israel will appear before the International Court of Justice at The Hague to dispel South Africa's absurd blood libel. How tragic that the rainbow nation that prides itself on fighting racism will be fighting pro bono for anti-Jewish racists. We have no doubt that after the Jewish state brings to justice the perpetrators of the bloodiest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, history will judge South Africa for abetting the modern heirs of the Nazis. We assure South Africa's leaders, history will judge you, and it will judge you without mercy. That's the end of today's update. We'll now take your questions.
First question comes from Jim Williams of Zenger International News Service in Washington, D.C. Eylon, do you know if the U.S. informed Israel prior to their attacks on Iranian proxies in Yemen, who have been aggressively attacking ships in the Red Sea?
We have no comment on that. We, of course, welcome international action against the Houthi terror pirates who pose a threat not only to the State of Israel but to international peace and security and the safety of global trade. This is a global threat and is right that it be addressed on a global level. No? Okay, we have no other questions today. Thank you very much, everyone. Happy New Year, and please keep safe. Thank you.